This idea, the earlier we can get them started and hone in on one sport, that's going to help them excel and be that next all-star athlete.
It leads to a lot of serious injuries at a young age.
They're just operating on these young kids nonstop, and 0% go on to play professional. To be really successful in a sport, you have to put in the hours.
That's part of a trailer of a new documentary that's being launched in Windsor today. It's from a locally based nonprofit organization called Give and Go Sports Education. Its entire reason for being is to promote multi-sport participation for young athletes rather than focusing on a single sport. The doc features many experts and athletes, including some big names like Damian Warner, Eric Lindros, and Joe Siddall among them. Now, we have one of the people featured in the Give and Go documentary here in our studio to tell us more. Frank Reno is a Windsorite who played for the Lancers football team. Before making it to the CFL, he played 6 games for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in 2017, 2018. Now he's focused on mentoring young men in fitness, personal training, and yoga, and he's in our studio. Good morning.
Good morning.
I could use some yoga this morning, I think.
Couldn't we all?
What was your sport like growing up? Obviously, we're here because we're talking about multi-sports.
Mm-hmm.
You were successful at one of them. What did sports look like when you were growing up?
Growing up, I was participating in any and everything that I could. I didn't have no direct goal or direction that I was going in terms of specialization in sport, but the goal was to stay active, stay busy, and not get involved in things that I shouldn't have been. And so I was busy doing just about every sport: soccer, football, volleyball, basketball, wrestling, anything that I could get into.
At what point did you decide that you would solely focus on football?
That came in the later years of high school, in grade 12, late grade 12 and grade 13 in that victory lap. And it became the sole focus as I went on into university.
Do you think that approach helped you make it as far as you did in football, or could you have gone further if you had just done things differently and focused on football from the beginning?
Looking back, there was a few athletes that I played with who focused on football from the beginning. And what I could say now is potentially that they were burnt out by the time they got to where I was at. When I was entering football, I was excited. I wanted to be there all the time. And it seemed almost as though they were less excited and looking to exit. I find that playing all the sports that I did provided me the opportunity to get multi-directional experience and learn a lot more about life beyond football that translated to football.
Why do you think it's important for kids nowadays to diversify?
Well, 99% of these kids aren't going to go professional. I mean, that's my own personal statistic, but they should be able to enjoy life and not be forced to look at life as a one-line perspective. And I believe that later specialization will support them in being able to experience life in its broader view than just, that small single lane that goes one direction and may not work out.
So I'm a little older than you, but I also played a lot of sports in my high school and then focused on one near the end. And I find now that I'm raising my children, finding ways for them to diversify is much more difficult because the commitment from these different clubs and groups is very extensive. It's way more extensive than what I had experienced. Do you find that as a barrier for people to diversify?
Well, I think that everybody has their own interest in mind at the end of the day, so they're going to focus from their perspective. But I think when we think about the youth of our future, when we force them to look at one line of thinking, then they may develop that identity with it, which could be damaging later on in life. And I think opening their mind to various views and allowing them to experience a lot gives them the opportunity to explore the world and see what's out there.
Yeah, I can definitely see the benefits of diversifying. You mix with different groups of people. Each sport brings a different group attracts a different type of people. But I look at sort of the younger generation coming up, and if they want to play hockey, you have to play club and you can't play school at the same time because there's conflict. And then the club wants you to then go longer into this off season. And it seems like the registration type part of it. And I had said to you before we came in, I was looking for something fun for my daughter to do. I wanted her to do dance. And she had to commit to at least 4 months. And it was like $300 for her to just do dance. And I just wanted like a library level take her there and let her just dance with other kids her age.
Right, just hang out for a day.
Just
Yeah.
hang out for a day. But that doesn't seem to be the way sports are.
Yeah, yeah. It seems like there's some that are looking to again get their focus, which is specialization to a degree. And I mean, it can help for some sports, like maybe hockey. The NFL draft or NHL draft, excuse me, is earlier on in life. But I mean, when we talk about quality of life for the youth, early specialization definitely pulls them away from that ability to explore and learn more about life in general.
What do you hear from people you work with? Do you find people are buying into this idea that they shouldn't focus on a single sport, that they should open up?
Well, I think it's 50-50. I find some people really want to focus on one sport because they believe that's what's going to get them as far as they can. But what I've found from personal experience and from the world around me is that specializing early doesn't quite benefit long term. And having the experience of trying many sports eventually does lead to a higher level of performance in a desired sport.
Why did you want to be part of this documentary?
I felt like my experience was valuable and could help others. I know that I'm one who didn't specialize early, but I also had the awareness that others did, and I saw the effects that it had on them. And I also saw how I benefited from later in my life choosing to dial in and focus on one sport.
What do you think parents should keep in mind when they're looking at sports for their kids?
I would say that maybe take yourself out of it. Let the kids do what they want to do. Let them explore, try new things, and see. Maybe that one sport they're saying yes to is not because they want to, but because you want to. And so allowing them to have freedom to explore would probably be my biggest offering or suggestion.
All right. Thanks, Frank. This was great.
Cool. Thank you.
Frank Renaud is a fitness coach and mentor in Windsor. He's a former football player who played with the Windsor Lancers and Winnipeg Blue Bombers. What do you think of all this? Did you want to diversify maybe and had to focus on a single sport? Text us 519-984-2051, Michael.